Mike, check. Justin Hunt. It's all happening. Thank you to everybody rocking with the channel. Thank you to everybody subscribed through the channel who shared our video. Share a link. It's priceless. Big thank you to everyone who's donated. If you'd like to donate, hit the Cash App that's right up there or the link in the description. Also in the description is a link to the Discord. Big shout out to Lils and Javen for holding it down over there. We'd love for you to join the community. 1 second applause. Jumping right in today. So we have a major update on the murder of Charlie Kirk. We covered Charlie Kirk. His murder a few days ago. So here is the update. They have found the shooter or the alleged shooter, and he is in custody. The alleged shooter is this man here. His name is Tyler Robinson. Okay. And so this has been reported widely at this point in time. Yesterday, there was a lot of speculation, and particularly from the right, who was assuming this person was trans. They assumed this person was a leftist. That doesn't appear to be the case when it comes to Tyler Robinson. Here is a picture of Tyler Robinson, a few pictures of Tyler Robinson and his family. Here's one with Tyler and his dad. His dad, as you can see, his dad is in law enforcement or was in law enforcement for a long time. His family has been reported to be big Trump supporters. And I believe his mom is a social worker in the area. Seems like he comes from a lot of money, lived in a 6-bedroom house. And so he is not fitting a number of the stereotypes that have been pumped by right-wing voices, including people very close to the president, right-wing media particularly. It doesn't fit any of the descriptions that they were telling us yesterday. Here's some more pictures. As you can see, Tyler, I believe this is Tyler here as a kid. His family is very big into gun culture. It looks like he's been around guns, perhaps taught how to use guns at a very young age. This post here says, having fun in SLC, Salt Lake City this weekend. We came up to see where Uncle Mikey works and explore his base. Logan was in heaven and his 8-year-old and has his 8-year countdown started. Okay. This looks like Tyler here again as well. As you can see them looking at the guns. Here's Tyler here with the 40-50 cal. Okay, so very big in the gun culture. That's been reported so far. Here's some more details on the background of his family. Tyler's family is registered Republican. His father is a minister and former law enforcement. The family has military members. Tyler grew up around guns from a very young age. His parents introduced him to weapons at an early age, as shown in now viral images. This is homegrown, gun experienced shooter from a conservative family, not some fringe outsider. All right, and there's another picture here of Tyler. For Halloween, I believe this is 2017, he dressed up as Trump for Halloween. All right, so he's very close to, he's grown up in the right-wing ecosystem. Now, the bullet casings that were retrieved when they retrieved the gun, if I'm not mistaken, the bullet casings that were retrieved had a number of people, including the Wall Street Journal, labeling the potential shooter before they had Tyler in custody as a trans person. Right, so the bullet casing said, "Hey, fascists, catch. If you read this, you are gay." And then there was one that had 3 arrows pointing up. Now, there's more details around that. We'll get to that later in the video. But based on that, and based on the rhetoric coming out of right-wing politicians, leaders, and media members, they were pushing a narrative that this is the case of some leftists who disagreed with Charlie. And that doesn't appear to be the case. That does not appear to be the case at all at this point in time. We'll see if there's additional details that show up since he is in custody. But right now, this looks like a homegrown terrorist that we have seen countless times, way too many times here in America. I thought this was interesting. This is Channel 5. Big shout out to Channel 5. 1 second applause. They actually sat down with the person who Charlie was debating the moment that he was murdered. Let's take a listen.
My name is Hunter. I was in the middle of debating Charlie Kirk in the middle of the assassination at Utah Valley University.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Those were his last words. Again, those were his last words. The question involved transgenders, and his last words were counting or not counting gang violence. And so they're going to show you a clip here of that moment. They're going to blur out Charlie, of course, but this is Hunte who's speaking now.
Great.
I mostly came in there because Charlie's very open about having some sort of dialogue or some sort of conversation that he believes in engaging, and I'm pretty on the record of how much I disagree with him, but I do definitely respect how much he's willing to platform voices to ensure that at least some semblance of a good conversation can come out of it.
How was the energy whenever you arrived to the event?
Very conservative, for sure. Everyone was very energetic, chanting Trump, chanting USA.
Get comfortable. Bring the best lives that Utah has to offer.
There was a line of
They look like SEC football fans right there. Riled up.
Liberals on the rooftop who were holding like pride flags and I think some like Palestine flags and things like that. And there was a little bit of taunting back and forth, but not very out of hand. Most of the debaters were either like asking questions like who's better, LeBron or Jordan, or like some like theological debates about distinctions between like Mormonism and Christians.
That Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord, and God will Christ is King.
But also, the event lasted, I want to say 20 minutes, maybe. Like, I really didn't get a good finger on the pulse on what an event would really look like, because I showed up fairly early. I was the second person to speak there. So like, the first person was maybe 10 minutes and I maybe got like less than a minute in.
So that's a quick clip. That's Hunter's perspective. He's the last person to speak to Charlie Kirk before he passed away. He also mentioned how this was a very conservative event, and also how there was a debate about Mormons versus Christians. Now, from reports, it looks like Tyler's parents are Mormon as well. So that's additional information that's come out so far. Now, this is very interesting. This is very interesting too. Now, Nick Fuentes is another extreme right-wing influencer, so to speak. I think he probably happily described himself as a Nazi. He's an outright racist, much like Charlie Kirk was, but further to the right than Charlie Kirk. Further to the right of Charlie Kirk. And apparently, there has been some beef between the two of them. And it's believed that Tyler, who murdered Charlie Kirk, was a follower of Nick Fuentes. Okay, so this is a few weeks before Charlie Kirk was murdered. And so here's a taste of where Nick Fuentes disagreed with Charlie Kirk.
What has to happen with Charlie Kirk is one of two things. One, he needs to recant his support for Israel. Not I'm going to hear everybody out, you're not an anti-Semite. No, you need to come out and say, I took foreign money. I shilled for a foreign country and I won't anymore. That's what we need to hear. That's option one. You can't take money from a foreign government and lie on their behalf and then say, oh, well, I'm just not going to be as aggressive anymore against and calling people anti-Semites and things like that. No, you need disclosure, you need accountability. Or two, you need to leave the stage. People cannot listen to somebody that they cannot trust. In particular, cannot trust that they're not taking money from a foreign government. You can't have it that way. Can't call yourself Turning Point USA. I'm an ally of the president. We're waving the flag for the young people and do the rest. So that's the situation in Gaza.
So that's what's happened between Charlie and Nick Fuentes. I don't want to say Charlie between him and Nick Fuentes, but this is where they disagreed. And they disagreed on Israel. Now, he was very critical, and so was Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer wrote this long thing here, but here's the first paragraph. It says, I don't ever want to hear Charlie Kirk, claim he is pro-Trump ever again. After this weekend, I'd say he has revealed himself as political opportunist, and I've had a front row seat to witness the mental gymnastics these last 10 years, right? So these are people on the right who had a disagreement.
Gaza, it's horrible.
who had a disagreement with Charlie Kirk. Okay, and it's believed that Tyler was a follower of Nick Fuentes, a groper, I believe the term is. And here's a couple of reasons why. Here's a post here that is part of that. It says he was affiliated with white supremacist Nick Fuentes and his Groyper Army F-boys. Turns out they have beef with Charlie Kirk for being too pro-Israel and not racist enough. So basically, this was a gangbanger putting in work. Ironic considering Charlie's last words, right? So this is a conversation that's happening right now. I'm sure more information will come out, but this is where a lot of the discussion is living currently. Now, there's a couple of other things that are a bit weird. Yesterday, one of the conspiracy theories that's been going around since Charlie Kirk's murder was that Israel had something to do with it because Charlie Kirk was about to break from his position on Israel. He's been critical of Israel at different points in time. He's also critical of Trump not releasing the Epstein files. And he got to a point where he just said, he's over it. He's not worried about the Epstein files. He trusts his friends in the government on that point. But you can see Nick Fuentes had a different point of view on that. Okay, that's one of the reasons why people believe that Tyler was a follower of Nick Fuentes. Here's another reason. This was on 4chan today. 4chan is a right-wing forum. You know, it's. I believe that's where most of the Q conversations came out around 2016. And this was when everyone thought that there was a basement in D.C. where blue team elected officials would go and be PDFs. Turns out there's Epstein Island. They still haven't got their information. But this is what it says on 4chan. Groyper confirmed. Nick is so effed, it's unreal. Right, so they believe that this person was a follower of Nick Fuentes. Here's another one. So is he our guy? Next one down. I was so convinced it was some Latino transgender. They use a slur for transgender there. So even in their circles, this has been going around too. In their circles, it seems like they believe that Tyler was a follower of Nick Fuentes, who was in disagreement with Charlie Kirk and let his audience know it. Right, so this looks like, this looks like when your own people turn on you. It wasn't some leftist, it wasn't some libtard. It was Tyler from the MAGA family, the Mormon from the MAGA family. This was interesting too. Take a listen to this. This is the governor during the speech when they talk about they had apprehended Tyler. Now, it's interesting how they apprehended him. His dad turned him in. His father actually turned him in. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Tyler talked to his priest or talked to his religious leader. And he talked to his dad, and his dad called the FBI. So this guy right here, Kash Patel to the right, this is who Trump appointed as the head of the FBI. And this guy gets up there and he's talking. He's like, this is what happens when you let good cops be good cops. No, you guys didn't find him. His dad turned him in. Right. Nevertheless, here is the governor, and listen closely what he has to say.
This bad stuff happens, and for 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us.
For 33 hours, the governor of Utah was praying that it wouldn't be one of us. He was praying that it wouldn't be one of us. Keep that in mind. Listen to some more.
That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country.
That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Keep listening.
Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here.
It would make it easier on them if they can say, hey, we don't do that here. Keep listening.
And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here.
So he was hoping that this would be someone from somewhere else. Now, the video I made the other day about the murder of Charlie Kirk was about how violent we are. When people say things like, hey, this isn't us. No, this is us. America leads the world in violence. We lead the league. We're Hall of Famers. We're the GOAT. And it's not always the people that we see on the news. All the people we see trending is not necessarily people where we're sending the National Guard. People living in those cities, that's not the end of the violence. We've been violent since this place was colonized. And when it comes to these types of shootings, the white supremacist pipeline is efficient and consistent, statistically speaking. He just didn't want it to be someone from his community. Now, it's interesting too, right? Because this is the governor of Utah. I'm not sure if he's ever going to have a bigger audience than he's had this week. And I think he completely dropped the ball. A lot of times people, when there's tragedies like this or major events like this, they look at this as an opportunity to extend or to elevate their political career. That one right there, perhaps it plays well someone else, but they're giving away the game. They're giving away the game. These reactions are actually kind of funny to it. Here's one right here. Shout out to Bethany Baptiste. They wanted a race war so bad, but all they got was a family feud. They're absolutely devastated. They showed their asses for 2 whole days and threatened to harm black students at HBCUs halfway across the country. But that boy was homegrown. They sold him, so he reaped. When people thought this was a leftist thing, we had the Wall Street Journal report that it was transgender. We had politicians. We'll see some of this later. We've seen right-wing leaders, we'll see this later, talk about how there's a war going on. And we had 5, not 7, HBCUs that had threats of violence called into their campuses. They had to shut their campuses down. As I understand it, I think the last HBCU West is in Oklahoma. I think maybe there's one in Oklahoma somewhere, West Texas. I think that's where the HBCUs stop, if I'm not mistaken. So followers of this rhetoric went as far as to threaten HBCUs over Charlie Kirk, threaten violence against him. Because these people were so sure that Charlie Kirk's, only someone who disagreed with Charlie Kirk would go as far as to murder him. And and I take that to mean, because they're not showing a whole lot of Charlie Kirk actual comments on a lot of these news reports, at least yesterday. They're more so showing people talk about Charlie Kirk's impact, not wanting to talk about the specifics of what he was peddling, the hate he was peddling. They didn't want to talk about the specifics of that. But it had to be someone on the left, because that's where Kirk spent most of his time dehumanizing people. That's where he spent his time dehumanizing. That's what his life's work was dedicated to. But now that's not the case. The governor is over here, oh, man, I hoped it wasn't us. I hoped it was someone foreign. Here's another one. They use that, the uppercase, lowercase text when they quote something. I had been praying that the person was from another country, because he is not one of us, because we are not like that. This is what I said yesterday when people said, this isn't us. This is us. And in the case of these types of shootings, whether they're school shootings, mass shootings, in this case, a political assassination, here's 15 examples right here. The list is way longer than that. This is exactly who we are. This is also an epidemic of violence that's still taking place, that is rarely ever recognized, and never, with zero attempt to change anything. This is who we are. This one's funny too, DOC. Not the DOC, but this person's called DOC. He says, I was hoping we could blame this on immigrants, or at least a minority. Turns out it was one of us, unfortunately. Yeah, too much truth. Now, here's an example. I saw this clip from CNN. This is some of the energy. It's much longer than this, but some of the energy that's been coming out of the right the past 2 days, right? This is the energy.
We're in a war. The left has been saying put a bullseye on Trump, a bullseye on his supporters. Charlie Kirk's a casualty of war.
Listen to this war rhetoric. This is disgusting.
We're in this country. We are.
They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it?
These are leaders of that political position. We've got major media, Fox News, Jesse Waters here. You've got Alex Jones. You've got Steve Bannon, who was in Trump's cabinet, who I think is probably one of the evil genius minds for a lot of things that have happened. A lot of the destabilizing landscape in which we're living. You have leadership from the right saying this. Before Tyler was in custody, they're using Charlie Kirk's murder to, what I believe, incite a war. They're going out and saying this is a war. We have a president who's currently using the National Guard and putting them into blue cities. There's a saying, I can't remember the saying, I'm gonna mess it up. Let no good tragedy go unused. I completely butchered that. But the idea is don't let a situation like this, or a situation like 9/11, or a situation like the Great Recession, or a situation like George Floyd. Don't let those situations go without finding a way to manipulate people in pain to your own end game. We saw that with George Floyd. With George Floyd's death, George Floyd's murder was the tipping point for the word woke. George Floyd was murdered in June. By September, the right figured out how to weaponize the word woke. And we're still living under that, by the way. There's a piece on this channel, you should check it out. It's called The Death of Drip. It's also the death of woke. And I look at the arc of when the word drip became popular and when it got co-opted, and the arc of when the word woke became popular and how it's been co-opted. That was another example. They were able to take George Floyd, everyone's saying woke, and spin it into this nebulous thing that is now allowing people to ban dictionaries. They're doing it right now actively with Charlie Kirk in real time, and we're watching it. But these are leaders. You have people who are leftists, who are, leftists in the audience, or voters, or, perhaps YouTubers or small channels or whatever. There can be some crazy talk from those people, but you do not see this from leadership on the left. Leadership on the left has been decrying this. They were some of the first to decry this yesterday, consistently. We covered that in the other Charlie Kirk piece. You don't see that type. This is leadership on the right. This is where their energy was before Tyler was taken into custody.
Tomato.
Here's Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck says, stop calling Charlie Kirk a conservative. He was a civil rights leader.
Tomato.
The spin is in. I talked about how, to them, this is going to resonate like the other side of the coin to Martin Luther King. This is their Martin Luther King. Right? Martin Luther King was fighting against slavery, 400 years of oppression, segregation, dehumanization. Charlie Kirk is fighting because his homies haven't had the best jobs for 15 years. He is fighting for white supremacy. He was a tool of that, just like Glenn Beck. Now they want to spin him into a civil rights leader. This is what they do with Confederates. This quote here is from Patriot Takes. Charlie Kirk called the Civil Rights Act of 1964 a mistake. That's the law that banned racial discrimination in the United States. Charlie Kirk thought that was a mistake. And now they want to spin him into a civil rights leader because Charlie Kirk was also pushing white replacement theory, which also doesn't exist. I like this one from Rod. This is the country that allowed Confederate traitors to be reimagined as tragic heroes. I talk about the Confederates all the time. It's less red and blue to me. It's Confederates versus everybody else. I grew up in the South. We had high schools like Wade Hampton High School. That was a Confederate general. That was one of our rivals. You see Confederate statues all over the place in the South. The Confederates were never punished. That's a huge reason, in my opinion. These old issues are still issues today. Charlie Kirk is a Confederate in my mind. And they're treating him as if he is a civil rights leader.
Tomato.
This was the Wall Street Journal. Okay, so this is the Wall Street Journal yesterday. It said, breaking ammunition engraved with transgender and anti-fascist ideology was found inside the rifle authorities believe was used in Kirk's shooting, sources say. And so, to paraphrase, a few agents who were on this case wanted it to be transgender in my mind. That's me saying that. I think they wanted that to be a trans person. That's what they wanted, I think. They went and sent that information to a few outlets, including Steven Crowder, I think his name is. I believe he's the guy that actually created the Change My Mind meme. He used to go sit on college campuses with a sign that said, change my mind, and have people, he'd pose a question and say, change my mind. That was the same phrasing that was also on Charlie Kirk's awning when he was murdered. But the Wall Street Journal posted this yesterday. They published this yesterday. And today they posted a retraction. Editor's note, an earlier version of this article detailed how an internal law enforcement bulletin said that ammunition recovered following the Charlie Kirk shooting was engraved with expressions of transgender and anti-fascist ideology. Justice Department officials later urged caution about the bulletin by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, saying it may not accurately reflect the messages on the ammunition. And the article was updated Thursday to reflect that. This editor's note was appended on Friday after Utah Governor Spencer Cox said the engravings included one that said, "Hey fascists," along with other messages and symbols. He gave no indication that the ammunition included any transgender references. And what they were trying to spin into transgender and anti-fascist was, it was an up arrow, a down. It was an up arrow, an arrow to the right, and then down arrows 3 times. And they thought the down arrow 3 times was a trans reference or a Antifa reference. Okay. Turns out it was a code to a video game called Helldivers 2 when you want to drop a 500-kilogram bomb on something. All right. So Tyler appears to be very online, appears to be someone who was very into meme culture, particularly memes that were popular in right-wing online circles in the Groyper community. Okay, that's some of the messaging that's coming out. This was Nancy Mace. Listen to Nancy Mace. She's from South Carolina. She's from South Carolina. She is so...
Tomato.
Here's what she was saying yesterday. Listen to her energy.
This shit ends. Like, enough is enough. And now I have to deal with real safety concerns. It sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-tranny. And just because I want to protect women, that I'm worried about getting murdered? Are you fucking kidding me? It's out of control, and enough is enough. And I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to be more vigilant than ever. I'm going to be louder than I've ever been until this shit stops. It's got to stop.
So that was her yesterday. All the energy in the world. This was her yesterday, too. Check this out.
I'm going to say this. Democrats own what happened today. I am devastated. My kids have called panicking. All the kids of every conservative in the country call panicking. Just because you speak your mind on an issue doesn't mean you get shot.
Then, by that logic, do Republicans own the shooting of the 2 Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota?
Political.
Isn't this on both sides?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm asking.
We don't know what condition Charlie Kirk is in right now.
Look at that. Look at that spin.
Some raging leftist lunatic put a bullet through
Raging leftist lunatic.
his neck, and you want to talk about Republicans right now? No.
No, I'm asking
no, not at all.
You said the Democrats
no, this is on. Democrats own this.
But isn't there a problem with
Listen to the messaging.
Political violence across the spectrum?
Yeah, we're talking about Charlie Kirk right now. That's the subject of this that we're talking about right now. Democrats own this 100%.
This is how they've been whipping up their audiences, their followers, their voters. This is them yesterday. This is them yesterday. Nancy Mace also said this yesterday. Yesterday, she said, time to bring back the death penalty. Now, I believe the state of Utah is looking into the death penalty for Tyler. I believe they're working with the Trump administration on that. We'll hear more details that'll come out around that in the future, I'm sure. But listen to Nancy Mace after. We know Charlie Kirk would want us to pray for such an evil and lost individual like Tyler Robinson to find Jesus. We will try to do the same. Yesterday, it was war. Yesterday, they owned this. Yesterday, it was trans slurs. Today, hey, we just got to pray. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Ryan Grimm called this out. He said FBI and the Wall Street Journal doing a whoops are bad after spending a day saying they had evidence it was a trans Antifa shooter is so deeply messed up. As a YouTuber, I want this YouTuber-run FBI to prove we podcasters can be competent away from the competent away from the Shure M7. Not looking good so far. Kash Patel was a podcaster. Dan Bongino, I think his name is. They run the FBI. That's who Trump put in to run the FBI. This is crazy. Legitimately crazy. Alex Goldman noticed this too when it came to Nancy Mace. Yesterday was all about hanging him in front of the Capitol. Now that it appears more and more like he was a deeply red-pilled weirdo, look at how that tone has softened. That tone has softened. There was other people too. I mean, this person here said, this is Chelsea. She said, have some class and respect for the dead. Imagine if it was your father that was shot and the whole media is making fun of it. It's one of the illest is this use I've seen. This came from Killer Use. I'm pronouncing it wrong. This is because Chelsea also said this. Bye-bye, Gaza. They want empathy and sympathy when they're grieving. Empathy for thee and no one else. Maybe I said that wrong. Empathy for me and no one else is part of that culture. We talked about this in the previous video with Charlie Kirk because he didn't believe in empathy either. This went super viral though. 17 million views. Super viral. 700,000 likes. They want us to care when it happens to them, though they care not for anyone else. This is an update too. The 16-year-old boy accused of shooting two classmates at Evergreen High School embraced conspiratorial, anti-Semitic, and white supremacist social media content. Okay, now this was the other shooting that we talked about yesterday because there was a school shooting in Colorado at the same time. At the same time as Charlie Kirk was murdered, there was a school shooting in Colorado because we have an epidemic. We have an epidemic of school shootings. And so that person also fit the school shooter description, much like Charlie Kirk's murder. There's an epidemic. Now, if you wonder what Trump thinks, Trump has moved on. Trump has moved on. Trump has not softened his stance, okay? First of all, this is an interview he did at the White House. The question is, my condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. How are you holding up? Listen to how Trump handles this. Listen to what he says.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. How are you holding up over the last 3.5 years?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
He said, I think very good. By the way, over here, all these trucks, they've just started construction on the new ballroom, the $200 million ballroom at the White House. At the White House. Maybe he brings Charlie up again. Let's see.
Which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty. It'll be an absolutely magnificent structure. And I just see all the trucks. We just started, so it'll get done very nicely, and it'll be one of the best anywhere in the world, actually. Thank you so much.
I think very good. Let me talk to you about how I'm wasting taxpayer dollars. This is Trump.
Tomato.
But Trump, although Nancy Mace might be softening and a number of right-wing people now want thoughts and prayers, they want people to be considerate of what they're experiencing, Trump hasn't softened his rhetoric at all. He did an interview this morning on Fox, and where he was asked, how do we stop this political violence problem? How do we stop the extremism? Listen to what Trump said, because his stance hasn't changed.
Radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less.
I tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less.
The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. And they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy.
Well, that doesn't appear to be the situation with what happened with Charlie Kirk. Perhaps Tyler was also upset about the things that Trump just mentioned. But so far, that doesn't seem to be the case. The story of this quote is, he doesn't care. 47 doesn't care about the extremism and the violence in this country. And in fact, he's doing more to me, it sounds like he's doing everything he can to amplify it. And why not? Why not, right? And why not? I mean, we talked about this before, never let a good tragedy go wasted. I know I butchered that quote in the beginning. But Trump's got a lot of tragedies. He's got a lot of things going on. He's got an economy that he is collapsing. Russia sent drones into Poland. He's supposed to be the guy that was supposed to stop all this day one. And most importantly, he still has the Epstein files. And this is a very, very loud distraction from something that Charlie Kirk, at least at one point in time, also wanted to see. That's the craziest thing about all this. Trump still hasn't released the Epstein files. Something to think about. My name is Justin Hunt. Let me know what you think about all of this. What are your thoughts a few days now since Charlie Kirk was murdered? Share your thoughts in the comments section. My name is Justin Hunt. Again, like and subscribe to the channel. Follow at The Company Man on everything, including The Company Man podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. It's all happening.
Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. The mathematical breakdown of this mighty game of rap we in. It's boom dapping. Systematical culture views us radical, it's all happening. Shaking hands and dapping it. Life through the lens of hip hop, from trip hop to yes, dog, you don't stop, you don't stop. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening.